Okay, gents, let's now focus on match week 30 of the Premier League season. Tottenham against West Ham is the headline game. Massive game in the top four battle for both of these teams. Andy, I'm going to come straight to you. Spurs, they lost at Manchester United, obviously last weekend in another big top four battle, but they played pretty well, right? We were talking about this between ourselves before we came on, and they actually were very unlucky with the way that they played at Manchester United, that Ronaldo just had himself a day and they were on the wrong end of that. What are your thoughts going into this game against West Ham? This is must-win territory now for Spurs, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about top four, it certainly is just the math says that they need to start picking up almost every single point that's available to them the rest of the way, given the advantage that Arsenal have, and I believe one game in hand on Spurs as well. So the Spurs are building momentum; they are growing, and then they're getting stronger. And it's clear that they're taking to Conte's ideas; they're able to implement them a little bit better and on a more consistent basis. And I think that's the thing that you really want to see for the rest of the season from this team is obviously the talent and the minds are there to grasp it and do it, but can they do it consistently? And they can beat a Manchester City and then they can lose to a Burnley the next time out. They have to be able to be a little bit more even keeled right there in the middle. And so I think they've done that over the last couple of games. They were good against Manchester United. Harry Kane was, he was good, but he wasn't quite effective in the way that he's been in recent games. And Spurs still created chances. Spurs still scored a goal of their own, and Harry Maguire gave them one as well. So there's just a lot of signs of slow growth, I think, from this team right now. And it's been a little bit of a choppy period for them, I think, with some of the fixtures. They've not been able to quite get up that momentum that I feel like they're ready to take. And so I feel pretty hopeful ahead of this game against West Ham for Spurs, just for the simple fact that we know that they've got the talent advantage, and now that they're starting to get on the same page once again, I'm very, very, very excited and curious to see what Harry Kane might be able to do now that Dejan Kulusevski is really getting up to speed with the team. Son is flying on one side. Rodrigo Bentancur has immediately come into this team and I think stabilized the midfield. He is the one that's linking everything up front to everything in the back. It was the biggest thing that I felt like they needed going into the January transfer window, and they addressed it. And they're a better team for it. Manchester United, take some notes.
There you go. Andy Edwards is positive about Tottenham Hotspur. Never thought I'd be saying that, but here we are. West Ham United, Nick. A wonderful moment last time out. Andrei Yarmolenko scoring on his return to the team after he had compassionate leave. Obviously, Ukrainian international, the situation going on in his homeland. He's spoken openly about how tough that's been for him, his family, everybody connected with the country. I know you were covering that game for PST when he scored. That was an incredible moment, right? And then just really summed up the support that he's been feeling from the Premier League, the UK, and just all around the world. So that's a lovely, lovely moment for West Ham. And he can play a big part down the stretch here.
Yeah, and he's a fantastic player. He's had kind of a weird career. Remember, he went to Dortmund, and I think we all thought maybe he was going to catch fire and become the world star, and not quite hasn't been the case. I like these moments. I'll do my best not to get political, but when you're talking about things that get covered all the time, like war, huge topics, sometimes you get those moments that make it very, very real for you, very visceral. And I couldn't turn away. I had goosebumps because it put into perspective. We know it's emotional. We know it's terrible, but this is a man who had it just pouring through him, and it was oozing like onto the screen and towards the sky. And I felt great about that. I also feel, in a sense, and there's no cool way to transition this, so please, my apologies. West Ham has this sort of nature where they're not going to go away. And as we transition to looking where they could finish, I still don't think they're going to finish in the top four or whatever. But every game, you can count on them giving it a go. And maybe at times they're not technical enough, or when they don't have the depth to do it. But this is a team that is incredibly plucky. And almost, I feel like maybe there should be T-shirts, with the exception of the fact that I'm sure their fans travel very well. West Ham is not going away could be this team's motto.
I love it. Get those T-shirts made right now. We'll all wear one at the end of the season. I think I said it a few weeks ago, don't sleep on West Ham for the top four. I think, like you said, it might be just a bridge too far for them. But whenever you seem to write them off, whenever Jared Bowen's out or Declan Rice out, oh, that's going to be a huge blow. They always just seem to keep fighting back, and they have players that are just hungry. A small squad, obviously, still going well in the Europa League as well. You never can write them off, and I cannot say enough good things about the job David Moyes has done there with that squad, with the resources. And if they finish in the top 6 again and get Europa League for the second season, that is just incredible. And I think that's almost a better achievement than last season, because last season, a bit of a one-off situation. There was talk about it's easier for them to play at home with the London stadium being empty and some of the issues. But now they've had a full season again to back it up, and everybody knows what they can do. And they've taken it to another level with the set pieces, how clever they are with that, how they can rotate Benrahma, Fornals, Bowen, Antonio up top. So, yeah, it's going to be a dangerous game for Tottenham, I think. If they underestimate West Ham, that West Ham will make them pay, right, Andy?
Yeah, this West Ham's another team that United could look at and say, well, how have they built up this thing that they've done? And I think it's a great point that you mentioned. They lose their star players, and they just continue picking up results. You see that at Manchester United or a lot of other clubs, to be fair, and that's simply not the case. And so just in terms of, again, having the plan in place, West Ham have been very smart the way that they have built. And the way that you become an actual top 4 contender is you qualify for the Europa League a couple seasons in a row. You are in the mix every single season. And I think they've probably established themselves now with the talent that they've got, the pedigree of a manager who's been there before. The results speak for themselves. The money coming into the club I think they probably will be there to stay for at least a few years.
And the thing is, when you qualify for Europe, you automatically can attract a better caliber of player. So, you're in the Europa League group stage? Yeah, I'll come. And then they start getting better players. But the one thing I like about West Ham is they are unashamedly themselves in terms of the playing style on the pitch. It's like, we are going to whip in crosses. We are going to be direct. We're going to try and hit you on the counter. We don't care about that. That's the way we're going to get it done. And we've looked at ways to beat teams. And I think the bigger clubs, Tottenham, Man United, whoever, Arsenal even, when they are trying to rebuild, they have to almost play a sexy style, right? They have to play a brand of football that is going to entice people around the world. West Ham don't have that problem because people aren't watching them as closely, but they can get the job done. And they just flown under the radar all season long. And I think it'd be a great story, again, if they can make it even tighter. If they get a big win against Tottenham this weekend, I think they're right up there in the top 4 conversation again. And they have a few other teams in and around them to play late in the season. So again, don't sleep on West Ham. That's all I'm going to say. Wolves against Leeds is an interesting game. Nick Mendola, Leeds, Jesse Marsh, marching on together, as we can say. Got a big first win against Norwich City in stoppage time. Boy, did they need that, because after a few defeats to start his reign, and then if they'd have drawn at home against Norwich, that would have been a really bad situation. But are we too high on Leeds after that win? Or is that, they have been playing well, so they probably deserved a little bit of luck and a last-minute winner to really push them a little bit further away from the relegation zone, right? So going to Wolves, that might actually suit them quite well. Away from home, on the counter, they can probably hurt Wolves.
Well, it will be about the counter. And I'll tell you what, it matters a great deal when Calvin Phillips returned and if Ruben Neves is going to be there. So I think these two players, and when they're absent or when they're there, have been the keys to their team's successes. Wolves also will have to deal with Patrick Bamford now, who we've talked about coming back for quite some time. And when it comes to Leeds, I won't judge them based on this game. I think this sets up pretty tricky for them because of how good Neves is. They're getting Raul Jimenez back to at least a savvy form, if not getting towards his best. And the way that Wolves' back three has been, Connor Cody's been phenomenal. Kilman's been a significant player to watch. Romain Saiss, and now Willy Boley is back and healthy. So there's actually room for rotation and challenges. So I think Wolves, again, we're still not seeing enough goals out of them. But if Raul is coming around, this could just be a team that's a little better put together for Leeds to get what they want out of this game. And I don't think it necessarily would be a judgment on Marsh or the players. I just think Wolves are maybe well suited for this stretch run.
I agree with you. And I think Leeds getting that win against Norwich kind of takes a bit of the pressure off them. And some of these games where they're not expected to win, where they might actually play a bit freer, and Rafinha will turn up and Jack Harrison, and a bit less pressure on them, especially away from the cauldron of Ellen Road, which Marsh has spoken about, and maybe that just almost brings down the level of the players because they're so passionate and so focused on delivering for that fan base. Sometimes the game plan just kind of escapes them in the heat of battle there in a Premier League game. So I'm excited to see how they do at the end of the season now, because I think with that win against Norwich, they probably will be okay, and then they can start building for next season. But there's still a chance. I mean, Watford and Burnley, they're not going to go away without a fight. Obviously, Everton are down there as well. So it's interesting down the bottom of the table. Talking about a bit further up the table, Aston Villa against Arsenal, Andy Edwards. Do we think Villa can cause an upset here? Because Steven Gerrard's side, real mixed bag recently. A couple of good wins, and lost at West Ham. And obviously going forward, we know what they can do. But I think the question mark for Villa is defensively. And if Arsenal's young stars are up on their game, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, Smith Rowe, Lacazette, etc., they could probably win this quite comfortably. But I feel like defensively, Villa just have to keep it tight, and they could do something here against Arsenal.
Yeah, I thought they had a chance. I looked at the injury report, and I'm glad I did. Lucas Dean probably going to miss this one. Douglas Luiz probably also going to miss this one. And you talk about a defense that already struggles just a little bit and is going to have its hands full with the young Gunners. This is probably an Arsenal win. They've been getting a lot of love lately, and I think rightly so. We've talked a lot this week. Actually, this is the home project week here on PST. We've talked about projects and building and having a plan and everything. Arsenal have spent the last year or so really going with this youth movement, and Mikel Arteta has finally been able to kind of turn over the squad in the way that he wanted to when he first got to the club, and getting Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang out of the club. I don't think was such an issue with him specifically, but the way that cliques had formed around that locker room, a little bit similar again to what we talked about with Manchester United. It seems like everybody pulls in the same direction now at Arsenal. And when you've got that much talent and you've got the youth and the ambition, that's the word I think that probably comes to mind for me most with this Arsenal team, is they seem like a very ambitious bunch of young players. And the fact that they're having success now at 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, it's not too big for them. It's not the end of the road for them. And I think they have an understanding of that the best is still very much to come from them. So I think they're fine this weekend against Villa, just given the injuries and given the form that Arsenal are in. And, I don't know how you really, aside from just completely falling apart down the stretch, I don't know how anybody else sneaks in there and gets that fourth place away from them. It'll be the first time, I think, in 8 seasons that they'll be in the Champions League.
Yeah, Arteta doing a great job at Arsenal. Like you said, I think getting rid of Aubameyang just kind of made everyone else sit up and take notice and said, okay, I've got to step my game up here, and I'm going to be counted on. These young players have come out of the shadows of some of the more experienced players there and taken their chance with both hands. So great to see. And I think Arsenal fans finally, like we said about Manchester United and Tottenham, they can see the plan. They have seen the building blocks being put in place. Been some painful moments the last couple of seasons, but they're here now, and now look, how can they build on that if they do finish in the top 4? That's the next big step for them. Leicester City against Brentford. I'm going to go with Brentford in this one. I kind of think that, I like what they're doing. Christian Eriksen obviously has brought the quality in the final third, whipping in great crosses for Ivan Toney to finish off, had some good results and good wins in recent weeks that have pushed them away from the relegation zone. So that's great to see Eriksen coming back and then back in the Denmark squad. What a great feel-good story that is. Leicester, again, I feel like we say this every week throughout the season. So many injuries defensively all season long. They just cannot catch a break, be it Jamie Vardy or Fofana or Evans. Whoever it is, they've just been hit really hard. This season's been kind of a write-off for them. And then it's all about Conference League, Europa Conference League. Can they go far in that and almost salvage European qualification by winning that? So, yeah, I fancy Brentford. That'll be quite a good game. That's a sneaky good game, right, between two teams who like to play good football, get it on the deck and attack and go forward.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches and much more.